Alright, hello everyone, how you guys doing? Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day, and today we are here with a video on the best beginner boss pets, in my opinion. Basically, which pets I think are the best for people that are kind of just getting into bossing, whether that be because you're a low level or because you're kind of a med level that just really hasn't tried bossing yet. So these are going to vary from the very earliest bosses that you can get into to kind of the brink of decent med game bosses. So got 7 bosses here for you today. I'm going to go out, try to kill them myself, show you at least what kind of inventories and setups I would run, along with, some information and what I think of the boss as a whole. So let's go ahead and get on into all the bosses we got today. And so here we are with the first boss. This is Chaos Elemental, and I have it in a nice little safe spot. If you guys want to check out how to do that, I have a guide on it that I will link. The safe spot's probably the best way to go for the lower levels. The med and high levels can just tank it, honestly. If you got enough food and if you're feeling confident with that, it's not too hard to tank. It's just annoying banking for food and whatnot, so I kind of like this method. But for most of these bosses, you're going to need like 70s or 80s in whatever stat you are using at the boss. Here I would say probably in the 70s range is where you should be. And as far as what weapons, the crossbow is the best, and as far as range goes, the twisted bow is the second best, which no one's probably going to be bringing out here if you're coming to a beginner boss video. And the third best is the toxic blowpipe, and then after that you could bring like a rune crossbow and whatever bolts you prefer. And then as far as melee goes, just decent damage dealing weapons, maybe the chain mace if you're going for an automatic weapon, or if you want something a bit slower for a different safe spot that's over there, if you know how to do that instead. People used to bring god swords for that. So a lot of variation here, but as you can see, the safe spot's very easy. I just stand back here and just go to work. It's pretty simple. As far as the boss as a whole, the drop rate for the pet is 1 in 300, so it's very easy to get. That's why people like this a lot, especially as a beginner boss pet. The kills an hour is 10 to 25, maybe even 30, depending on how you're killing it. And then the GP per hour range is between 200 and 600k. I mean, it's not really that great, but you have a chance at a dragon pickaxe, so that's kind of where that lies. And overall, I'd give it like a 7 for campability. That's a pretty subjective thing that I just score by. It's basically how much I enjoy just camping the boss long term, and if it's easy to get to, easy to stay at, stuff like that. So as you saw by that kill, it's not too difficult, and the lure honestly is pretty simple. You attack Chaos Ellie all the way over here, you run him down to the south part right there, and you just run straight north, and you're basically good. Like, that's it. So if you guys want to check that out, feel free to hit up that guide. But yeah, Chaos Elemental is just really, really good, not for the GP, but for the fact that the boss pet is 1 in 300. I mean, it's so easy to get. And here we are at the second boss. We are in the Falador Park for the giant mole. As far as my inventory goes, this is the melee setup, which most people are going to be using. Basically what you want is full Darok. You're also going to need a locator orb or a rock cake that I've forgotten to lower your HP, a dragon dagger just for a special attack to get some more DPS, and then optionally you can also bring a stab weapon like a hasta to just be able to get some decent hits whenever mole is a low HP. So I also have a mole guide as well if you guys need some more details as far as how to kill mole. As far as how you get here, you just kind of dig right down. Ideally, you should check before you come in to see if there's someone in here. I'm just going full send. Want to get as low as you can with the Darok so that you can do some maximum damage, and it would appear that no, it's here, I don't know. Appears to not be taken, so we are good to go. Up there, I have marked the cannon spots as well. That's also in the guide. Cannon is pretty decent here, just to get some extra damage if you want to do that. Yeah, mole is just a decent med-level boss if you have the Falador Hard Diary done. If you don't have that done, and please don't roast me for these diaries, that's disgusting to look at, I know, but if you don't have the Falador Hard Diary, it's not that great. The Falador shield locates the mole for you and has this arrow on it. Without that, you have no clue where he goes. It's a pain to try to find him. In addition to that, you get noted mole pieces. So both of those are really, really helpful for killing mole and camping it. As far as the drop rate of the pet, it is 1 in 3,000. So that, I mean, it's pretty high, but the kills per hour ranges from 30 to 65. So decent amount of kills per hour. So it doesn't end up being that bad. And the GP per hour is, 500k to 1.1 mil. Pretty nice stuff. It's not meta, but it's pretty good. And honestly, if you enjoy mole, if you enjoy hanging out, it definitely is a good time, and it's a boss that I've obviously camped a lot myself. Still don't have the pet, still hunting, but you know, here we are. And yeah, I didn't put my cannon down, but every kill on average you get 2 mole skins and a mole claw, which is like 20k. So that's why it's decent. You just guarantee drops all day. And as far as the campability, I honestly give it a 9. If you got the Falador Hard Diary and all that done, it's very easy to just hang out. The trips are pretty long, so you don't have to bank too often, and all around, pretty enjoyable boss, as you can tell. I do like it. And here we are with the next boss. This is Venenatis, and again, I do have a guide on this one too, so if you want to check it out, feel free. In that guide, I explained the 2 safe spots. This one over here is longer to set up, but easier, and this one over here is insanely quick to set up, but a lot more difficult on the initial setup. Every kill after the first kill is very, very easy if you know what you're doing, but it's tough to start to learn. So if you're gonna be here for a while, I would recommend this. If you're not, I'd recommend that. In addition, this spot does require a 3-tick attack style, so crossbow works here. And as far as the gear, I would definitely recommend the crossbow, at least for this method. If you're going to use like a rune crossbow and ruby bolts or diamond bolts, I'd go over there. And yeah, this spot's also single, so that's kind of helpful. You can downgrade the anguish if you need to. I just brought that because it's useful. And you could also downgrade the God D'hide to Black D'hide if you think you're gonna die. I personally have only maybe died here once. I don't even know if I've died here once, honestly, in like my 2,000 to 3,000 kills out here. Because if you're in singles with a Din's Bulwark, and there's dragons down there, there's almost no way that you should die if you know what you're doing. But if you're a little nervous, that's fine. As far as the inventory goes, just a lot of healing stuff, prayer. I've Dins and a Darok plate leg for tanking, and yeah, just kind of all around useful stuff for this boss. So what you're looking for is Venenatis to be lined up the way he is now, with the western side of him to be lined up with those tiles, and he is. Once that's the case, you can walk up on over here. Oop, and if it's not the case, you can't. So this is where it's kind of annoying to set up initially. He respawns exactly on the spot you're looking for, so that's why it's pretty easy after the initial setup. But yeah, just like this, he'll look over, you attack him as soon as he looks. Like as soon as you see him turn, you attack. If you're the second too soon, a second too late, it's not going to work. And then after he moves up like that, you can go over here. You have to make sure you remain in constant combat. And yeah, there you go. You're in singles, and you're killing Venenatis from a very close range. Just gotta do your best and try not to mess it up, but once you get it down, honestly, it is a great boss, and I camped this boss for a lot of my money, and that's more of what this boss is about, is money. As far as the kills per hour, depending on the setup and lure spot you're using, it's anywhere from 15 to 35. You can also get Wilderness Slayer task of this, which can speed it up more, which is amazing. The GP per hour ranges from 1.2 mil to like 3.3 mil. Pretty wide range, but again, you know, a lot of different setups, and that's very, very good money compared to most of this stuff. Now, I wouldn't recommend you come out here until probably about 80 to 85 range. In that range is where you're going to want to be. Anything earlier, you're going to definitely have a hard time, and even then, you're still not going to be killing them quick, but it's definitely a good place to kind of get your money flowing on in. And overall, I give it like a 9 for campability. I mean, just the safe spots alone and how easy they are once you know how to do them. And yeah, I mean, in total, I like Venenatis a lot and would definitely recommend it for people early on that want to boss and make some money. And we'll go ahead and knock out 2 birds with 1 stone with these wilderness bosses and go on up to Callisto. The inventory is much of the same, honestly. You don't really need too much else different. Maybe like another brew or 2 if you want, but I don't think it really matters all too much. Up here I have these tiles marked again. I have a Callisto guide if you want to check that out. There's a range safe spot right here that I like, but there's also a melee spot down there if you want to melee it. So, you know, a couple different ways you can go about it. This setup isn't too bad. You just attack Callisto, run extremely far west, basically to this little spot right here. As soon as Callisto is in your sight, you're gonna want to book it. So there he is. We gotta go now. And then go around this tree stump right here. That should lure him on into this little area around these bones. And you're gonna want to run up there. He may attack you once on your way up there, but as long as you're, you know, like above 50, 60 HP, you'll be fine no matter what. And yep, there is what I was talking about. Luckily it didn't do too much damage, and then yeah, you can just camp out here, throw on your prayer, and go to town. I prefer the melee spot, but again, just kind of depends on what you're looking for. Along the same lines as Venenatis, you'd probably want, honestly, 85 plus, or maybe 80 plus is here if you're using melee. 85 plus range. It's just, Callisto's honestly a bit worse in almost every regard in my opinion, but for whatever reason people still come here, people still kill it, and if you know, want to change it up, or maybe you feel like something about Venenatis isn't for you. This is an easier safe spot in my opinion, as far as getting it going. It's still a little ways away, but it's not too bad. As far as the drop rate for the pet, it is 1 in 2,000 as well. The kills per hour, probably a little bit lower at 10 to 25, depending on what you're working with. And that would make the GP per hour anywhere from 800k to a little above 2 mil. Again, dragon pickaxes will make a large part of that. And as far as the campability, I think it's a little lower than Venenatis because you're more likely to get PK'd out here, and the best safe spot isn't better than Venenatis's. All that given, I still give it a 7. I mean, it's a decently easy spot to set up, and long term, you would be good out here. You can do a lot of kills a trip if you'd like, but yeah, again, it's in level 40 wilderness, so you're gonna have to be a bit more careful and ready to tank. Good stuff there. And for the next boss, we'll be heading out to the wilderness again. It is not, I guess, totally in the wilderness, but you do have to head there to get there, and that is King Black Dragon. As far as the setup goes, you're going to want to look for a stab-based item. Here I have the Zamorakian Hasta. You can downgrade to an Abyssal Dagger, a Whip, maybe a D-Sim on stab. I mean, there are some other options. If you don't have an Abbey Dagger or a Hasta, I would probably recommend going with range. This is one of the bosses where I'd say probably 70 plus in whatever stats you're coming here with is going to be useful. You don't have to be too high, but you know, you want to be high enough to where you can get consistent kills. So I would recommend bringing 3 items that you keep on death. You can obviously protect item for a 4th if you'd like. There is a chance you die there, so just don't take too many items where, you know, you may be in a bad situation. And yeah, let's go ahead and get on out there. I personally recommend Gorok teleports, but you have to have the desert treasure done for that. So if you don't have that, just bring a burning amulet. I think this is just kind of a less PK'd route to get here. A lot of people kind of camp around that burning amulet spot, so this is kind of secluded. And then just run on over here. I don't have a KBD guide, but I will be working on guides for the rest of these videos here in the near future. If you're interested in more PVM-based guides, they will be happening, so feel free to sub and wait for those if you'd like. But getting on in here, basically you're going to want to be using an extended anti-fire so that you don't get hit as much, and an antidote because you can get poisoned here. No matter if you're using a range or melee, you're going to want to stand in melee distance and pray melee because it gives him the option to melee you for 0, which is good. You want to take less damage if you can. And yeah, KBD does do a decent amount of damage, so you will be banking a little bit. The drop rate for the KBD boss pet is 1 in 3,000. The kills per hour is anywhere from 20 to 50 for the most part. If you have Dragon Hunter items, they can actually go higher, probably closer to 70. 70 plus if you're on a Slayer task. I mean, this ranges very widely because the Dragon Hunter weapons make it much better along with the Slayer task. But if you're just coming here with the, you know, your regular beginner setup, you're not going to be up there. The GP per hour is anywhere from 400k to 1.2 mil, somewhere in there. Again, wide ranges, but that's because you can almost come to KBD at any level for the most part. I mean, especially if you got a team, a lot of low levels are always down to come here because it's a decent bit of fun. You have that shot at a Vizzy. And the campability, I give it a 7. I mean, the only thing is if you're a real low level, you're only going to be getting like 1 to 2 to 3 kills a trip, and you're going to be banking a lot. So just be prepared for that if you don't have too high of stats. But ultimately, I do enjoy KBD. It makes you a little bit of money, and it definitely gets you into the early game bossing. All right, so now on to our second to last boss, and that is, I guess, well, Jad, or the Fight Caves as a whole. This is a boss that I would recommend doing on Slayer task. It's the only Slayer related boss of the video because most of the other Slayer bosses are pretty high level. This one, you can unlock through Slayer with points if you'd like. And once you've completed Fight Caves and know what you're doing, I think it's a good unlock. You get 37k XP in total once you completed it. That includes all of the XP from the monsters during it. You get a 25k bonus for finishing it. And if you already know how to do Fight Caves, it's definitely decent XP and a decent chance at a pet. As far as the gear, I mean, you know, this isn't a Fight Caves guide, but you're going to want to go for somewhat defensive, somewhat offensive, and also prayer. So you just kind of a good mix of all of those is what I have here. A Slayer helm imbued. This one is not imbued because this is a side account that I don't have any Nightmare Zone points on. Please no roast. But in theory, definitely should be the way you're going with the Slayer helm. The drop rate upon completion and the sacrificing of the cape is 1 in 67. It's kind of a two-step thing. You can get it either from the kill or sacrificing the cape, and if you combine them, On a Slayer task, it's 1 in 67. Off a Slayer task, it's a lot higher. That's why you want to be on a task even more so if you are hunting this pet. So for that reason, I gave it a campability of 4. It's not really something you can just go out of your way and camp. You could in theory, but it wouldn't make a ton of sense since you're going to get a lot of these tasks on your way to 99 Slayer anyways. The kills per hour ranges from 1 to 2 depending on how fast you can do it, and the GP per hour is about negative 500k. It's not, you're not going to be making any money here. I guess you get some money back off the Tokuul, but it's pretty minuscule. So going to be losing money, but the pet's pretty sick. So all around, decent pet to go for, and if you like the fight caves, even better. And now on to the final boss of the video, and this is one that probably lies outside of that beginner range, but it's the beginner range of meta bosses, so I'm going to introduce it, and that is Zulrah. You unlock this behind the Underground Pass quest, which is a lot more accessible than other bosses that you get through questing later. So as far as the setup, you're just going to want to have a decent mage-based setup along with a range-based setup. I have a Serpentine Helm or a Magma Helm to also negate the Venom that you can get here. If you don't have a Helm, you can change that with an Anti-Venom Potion. And yeah, I mean, all around, I'm using Vengeance. I have an Imbued Heart. Both of those two things you don't need, but they're just kind of useful if you're going to stay here for a long time. So I have a 5-way switch to my range switch as well. So, I mean, if you're not comfortable, bring less switches. The more comfortable you are, the more you can bring. So, just kind of figure that out on your own. And then as far as the killing, I mean, learning Zulrah, like your initial 50 to 100 KC, are going to be a bit tough just because there's 4 different rotations and you have to try to learn them all. The way I recommend it is to try to learn 1 rotation at a time and either log out or teleport out if it is not the rotation that you need. It's a bit more annoying, but at the end of the day, I think it's probably a better way to learn. So basically you just mage the range and melee phases and then range the mage phase. And for some more information on Zulrah, the drop rate of the pet is 1 in 3,000, which is pretty high, especially when you consider the kills per hour, which is between 15 and 30. It's a decently long time to go ahead and get the pet here, but at that same time, you'll be making a ton of money when you're here, so it kind of alleviates some of that pain, no doubt. The GP per hour is 1.3 mil to a little over 3.5, 3.8 mil. Again, like most GP per hours, it depends on your stats and the gear you're working with and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, this is one that you'll be making a ton of money with, and it's kind of a med game boss. As far as bossing is concerned, I understand that you need 80s in stats, but when you consider what level 80 is, it's probably like a 6th or 7th of the way to 99, so that's what I mean in terms of med game. Not insulting anyone, I'm just saying that that's what it is. And then as far as the campability, I gave it an 8. I mean, the accessibility of getting to Zulrah and getting to your house and all that's pretty easy. And then as far as the motivation to stay here long term, the money's so good that you're going to continue to be motivated here. And it honestly starts to introduce you to some more bossing mechanics, because before this you really weren't dealing with anything that made you change gear, change prayers. I mean, it's just sit there and kill stuff, and this is one that's a little bit more interactive and can be more fun in that regard, or it may not be your thing and you may not like it, but it's definitely a med game boss that I think is good and would recommend people try to learn if they're getting into some more med game type bossing and need some money. So that is going to be it for this video. If you guys did enjoy, make sure to leave a like. Anything you want to tell me, let me know in a comment down below. And on top of that, if you want to see more videos like this as soon as they go live, make sure to subscribe. And with that said, hopefully you guys have a wonderful day, and mustache still peeking out though.